Hey, I'm Mitchell Davis, a Laravel developer.
I'm Gavin Tye, co-founder of SixSides.
And you do
sales
sales
and
and marketing.
apparently, whatever.
And we are building SixSides.co. It's an events platform that helps you build a stronger community through events. And this is our B2B SaaS journey. How's it going, Gav?
G'day, mate. How's it going? Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's good to see you, mate. We're up to episode 5. Now, if I recall correctly, you're going to get these recordings up onto YouTube now that we're at episode 5, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's enough of a buffer to withstand us going on holidays, the holiday period, so I'm looking forward to it. We'll start putting these episodes up. We're going to do them pretty raw, right? So,
yeah.
Maybe pull some shorts out of some interesting conversations. But yeah, that's on my to-do list this week. I've almost done the graphics for it.
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait to see it. Well, it's a good point to kick us off. Let's do a week in review. So how's your week been? What have you been up to?
Look, I think it's been really good. So we're in March now, the tail end of March. We're starting to have more pointed conversations with some clients. And we've got 4 pretty good opportunities that we're discussing. And they're coming from our network or an immediate connection to our network. And some are really exciting, and it's really comforting or reassuring to know that people are seeing our intention of what we're trying to achieve, right? The why behind we're building SixSides. So
it's resonating with people, right? Like we were on a call the other day. I reckon that's the most fun I've seen you have on like any sales call, SixSides or anything else that I've seen you on before. And yeah, just connecting. The message was really connecting really well with the person we were speaking with. And it was great. We're getting really good feedback and like some real tangible opportunities. Things are moving along, which is just awesome.
I agree. Well, I think the challenge, in my experience in selling software, is, and anything really, if it always goes back to the Simon Sinek video for me. Start with the why. You got your why, how, what. Most people will talk about how this is how we do something. This is how we help deliver an event, or this is what we do during an event or through the app, whatever, if we were to talk about that. I think that has very limited ability to connect with people. But when you talk about why you want to do something or why it's really important and why that is a focus of us and why they should pay attention to it. If you get the why right and it resonates, then it, in my opinion, and from what I feel, it resonates on a subconscious level that then makes everything else make sense. And that's what I think happened in that particular meeting with Tracy and Holly the other day, is they got it. We didn't even have to do anything. And they were like, yeah, I get it. It's a massive problem. So...
And it was awesome to see. It's really cool. Like, it's just really like enjoyable to sit and watch as not the person doing the sales pitch. You weren't even necessarily doing a sales pitch. We're just having an open conversation about, hey, this is what we do. This is how it benefits, all the different sides of a community. And they just got it. And it was really, really nice to see. So hopefully there's a lot more of those conversations in the future.
Yep. I think that's where the being mission driven. I know that sounds wanky or jargon filled, right? But if you have your mission right and that permeates into your values, and I would think that the culture you and I are trying to lay the foundations for with SixSides, we're mission driven. Our mission is to help build a stronger community, all sides of a community, no matter who they are, give them unique value. And then if we're honest and intentional about that, then I think people either agree with it or don't agree with it. That's fine. But I think that's one of the hardest things, is to communicate that mission or the inherent feeling that you're trying to achieve. So
yeah. Well, it went really well on that call. So hopefully that keeps happening.
It has
Something
brought
else?
up I was going to say, it has brought up another conversation that's come from there, which is which we'll talk about a little bit later, is at the moment we are sales-led driven, like founder-led driven, right? And that's okay. But it's probably not enough for us to scale or start growing over time exponentially, which everyone talks about hockey stick growth, blah, 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 whatever. So one of the things which is where we've talked about this is our theory on how do we turn $1 into $5, or how do we do that through technology with what you're building. And although if it's founder led and it's sales led driven to get us in there, that's fine. If we can turn that $1 into $5, it will be a perpetually growing machine, because that 1 will turn into 5, which will turn into 25, which will turn into 125, and so on and so on and so on. So I think that's a real interesting challenge, that as a founder thinking about that, because although I have ideas on it, at the end of the day, you've got to build it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, on that point, I have spent a fair bit of time this week, and Chris, who works with me at Atlas Software, my other business, we both spent a good chunk of this week building out a new feature. And so that's been really exciting, because it has been the first new feature basically since November last year. Probably the last thing I did was the rap videos for Laracon Australia in November. And then kind of since then, it's mostly been you doing, of course I've been involved in 80% of everything that we're doing, but that's all really been driven by you. And so finally the stars aligned, and I was able to, pull my finger out basically and get in and build out some new functionality. And it felt fucking great, to be honest with you. It felt really good. So to not be dragging the chain a bit, So it's been really inspiring. I'll talk about it in a minute, but it's been really inspiring to it's a fun code base to work in. It's really interesting technology. It's largely, for the nerds, it's largely API driven, because this is a project. It's not running in a web browser, it's running on a mobile app. So having to build out APIs for everything, as opposed to, form requests and tables and stuff and HTML, like
okay, go. You're going to have to go back here, mate. For the layman's terms, let's go back to the beginning here, because I have no idea what you're saying. So let's go. Give us an overview at a snapshot of what your specialty is. Like, I know it's Laravel, but why Laravel over other options? And keep it to a grade 5 level who doesn't know programming, right? So, because tell me your mindset and let me understand what you think when you do this stuff.
Sure, I will try. That's a nice, very open question. Let me start with why Laravel. First, what is Laravel? I guess it's a PHP framework. PHP is a programming language, and for people that are just completely not technical at all, don't even know what that is, it's kind of like real, like normal spoken languages or written languages, like English versus Chinese versus, Spanish or whatever. And so you can write code in these different programming languages, and one of them is PHP, and that is where I have specialized. I got started with it now probably like 15 years ago, maybe more. Okay. I was only a kid. I would have been 12 maybe when I first got started writing code. And pretty quickly got onto PHP because it was a really easy language to get up and running with. Didn't require a lot of like complicated setup and stuff. You could kind of just pick it up and get going and do like some really powerful things with.
Yep.
And so then fast forward to probably 10-ish years ago now, somewhere around there, is when I got started with Laravel. And Laravel is a framework, which the point of a framework is to sit on top of like the bare minimums that a language gives you, like PHP. A framework will give you like a bunch of things out of the box, basically.
Okay.
So like, okay, it'll give you some code that you can call, and really quickly, like now you're working with a database, you're able to store information about users or about talks at a conference or whatever.
Right.
Like you can store that somewhere and then pull it back out later. And Laravel will help you do that really easily. It'll help you build out web pages where, okay, now take information about that user's name and stick it up the top right on their dashboard so they know that we know who they are and that they're logged in and all that sort of thing.
Right.
It helps you with all of that.
Sure.
So that's kind of the overview there. And it does a million other things for the people that know. It does a lot more than that. But that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay.
And so then...
Go on. When I see people or founders start a business, right, and they're doing an MVP, it looks like they choose a programming language or maybe a framework or something that doesn't sustain them when their business grows, and you find them having to rewrite the code base or do something like that. Does Laravel help circumvent that or prevent that from happening in the future, or is it? Yeah.
So Laravel is like one of the most like incredible frameworks that I've seen, and I am biased. I'm totally in the Laravel community, right? But it has so much stuff and has been running for so long and has such great documentation. It's like incredibly powerful what you can do in Laravel over some other frameworks or even other programming languages. You know, like a really common one is React.js. So that's a JavaScript framework, and largely it's focused on things happening in the browser. So like, sure, it can draw out, you can make really beautiful web pages with it, right? Is the main premise. And you can click buttons and things can happen and stuff. But up until fairly recently, that was basically all you could do. You couldn't like send an email from it, or you couldn't store stuff in a database, or you could, you know, like actual stuff that needs to happen. And that kind of, the umbrella term for that is like back-end stuff.
Yep.
React, up until recently, didn't have a story for that. And so to get back to your question of, well, how does Laravel help you not have to rewrite this thing in a few years' time as your team grows or whatever? In Laravel, you can do all of that. And Laravel works with these front-end technologies like React or Vue, which is what we kind of specialize in. But it really helps you with all of that because it's got so much stuff kind of built in. Yeah. Plus, there's this enormous community of open source developers that put out all of these additional tools on top of it. And we're leveraging a bunch of those for SixSides and for our other projects under Atlas. So, like, it's a huge community. And if you build your project right, you won't have to rebuild it in a few years in, you know, some other tool. There are lots and lots of companies that are using Laravel in different parts of their stack. I think there's a major business, Titan, in America. They're a Laravel agency. They put together this list of like enterprise businesses that are using Laravel to really kind of showcase this point of like, Laravel is fucking awesome to build out your technology, build out your applications, etc. So I'll link that in the show notes. So it's incredibly powerful, and that's why as soon as I saw it and really started using it 10 odd years ago, not once have I considered moving anywhere else, because it's just it does everything that we need.
So side note, you run Atlas Software, which is a Laravel agency. So if there's anyone listening here and they want some advice on it, by all means, reach out to you, or if you need help developing stuff, right? So, and by the way, this podcast is sponsored by Atlas Software. That wasn't intended of that question. So, because it's such a not a dark thing. It might as well be another language. I have no idea, right?
Yep.
And it's but it's
That's
more.
That's why you need people like me.
Yeah, and well, I think we need each other, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's an interesting. I don't get that much of an insight into how you do your work, and maybe we need to change that, right? Maybe because you come in sort of sales meetings and you may not see everything that's going on under the surface, but you definitely get a sense of what I'm about. I only see the end result of the platform and not the actual how you go into it. Maybe we need to.
I would love to change that, but you have continued to be like, it's boring, it's nerdy, I don't give a shit,
right.
yeah, whatever.
No,
So
no,
you change your perspective. I would
Yeah,
love
we'll
to bring
change
you
my
along
perspective.
and show you some more of how the sausage is made so that we end up with a better product at the end. I would love
Yeah,
that.
100%. Okay, well, let's do it. We'll figure out how to do that. Awesome. So,
So
I've
back to the
seen-
meeting bookings.
yeah. Like I've seen how you design. You have an eye for design, right? So, what goes into your process for designing? Like, where I share what the meeting bookings, where our intention is there, and then I'd love to know how you go about the process of design.
Sure. Okay, let's do it. So the feature is meeting bookings. So from within the event app for SixSides for whatever event we're running it on, as long as the event organizer has configured it and made it available, and what I mean there, specific. Let's get specific. So this feature allows attendees, speakers, sponsors, whoever's at the event to go into the app, find someone else that they want to have a meeting with. So, hey, Gav, I want to have a chat with you. Let's work together on our sales. I want to become a client of Sales Market Fit. Also sponsored by Sales Market Fit, Gavin Tye. Reach out to him. He's an amazing sales and marketing expert. I got you. So, if I wanted to meet with Gavin, then I could go to Gavin's profile inside of the app. There'll be a book a meeting button, and then that will bring up a screen. This is what we've worked on all this week. It'll bring up a screen where I can punch in, hey, Gav, I'd love to have a chat with you about SaaS, or whatever, right? You punch in a reason for the meeting. You go and select from a few available times, and those times are configured by the event organizer. So in the lead up to the event, they will log into SixSides where they'll, upload their attendees and things like that. They'll just go in there. There'll be a section for meetings, and then they can say, okay, we've got 10 tables that we're going to make available from 9 to 5 across all 3 days of the conference, or something like that, right?
Yep.
And the meeting organizer will also specify the meeting times are going to be 10 minutes long or 15 minutes long. They might have a sense of how long their community might need. Is it like speed dating, like a 5-minute thing, or should we set meetings as half an hour?
Sure.
That's kind of up to them. Once they've done that, that's effectively it for the event organizers. So now we get back into the app. Go on.
I was going to say that it really ties back into our mission of bringing the community closer together, right? For those who want to meet. So
absolutely,
and breaking the ice. So this falls again in line with, interesting.
100%. So trying to optimize for people's ROI on the conference ticket that they bought, then if they can take meetings there, and now we can facilitate that inside of the app instead of them having to reach out on Telegram or on LinkedIn or whatever. Hey, are you free at 9:30 tomorrow? Maybe we can find a room somewhere in the venue or whatever. We just do it all straight inside of the app, make life really easy for everyone, and hopefully a lot more meetings will happen as a result of it, right? So so then basically you go through, you select some times. And we've put a bunch of logic in there to make sure we're not over committing any tables. So, if there's 3 tables or whatever, and all 3 of those get taken for 9 a.m. to 9:30, then now that drops out of being an available time slot for everyone else, So, we've gone through, we can now book a meeting inside of the app. I'm working on the push notifications for it to then go out to the person that's been invited for the meeting. So working on that, and then you can view it in like a list of meetings screen as well. So you can go in and see these are all your meetings. The part that's still to be done is to be able to actually respond to a meeting.
Sure.
And so this I'm hoping to get done today.
Will we collate that at the end to say to the event organizer, hey, during your event, you had 35 meetings booked, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll have all of that data to be able to report on, because we found from a lot of these calls that we're having with potential customers that a lot of them have like reporting needs. You know, they need to report to up higher in their chain of, hey, yeah, this is how many people we had, this is how much business we think this conference has generated, especially in like government space. It sounds like that's pretty common and pretty, like that's required in a lot of cases. So as we're building out any new functionality or looking at what we already have, we're thinking a lot about, well, okay, how can we collate this into a couple page report that goes through and just does half the job for them, you know?
I wonder, here's the thing, I wonder at the end of a meeting, like an Uber ride, you can rate the meeting. And then what is the best thing that come out of the meeting? Well, what was the best thing about the meeting? Oh, we have a meeting scheduled next week, or we're working on a collaboration. So we can collate that, because the intangible stuff is the hard. At any event, organizers going, I know there's value, we just can't capture it. It's hard to capture, which is what we have ideas on that. But I wonder if you could do that. To say, hey, it was a 5-star meeting or 4-star, and at the end they could say, hey, you had 35 meetings, 5 stars. These are some of the things that come out of it. Right? Yeah.
I wonder, you wouldn't necessarily want to show, like if I thought, oh, Gavin was awesome, and you thought, oh, Mitch is a dickhead.
But that's
maybe we don't want to show those to each other.
It's not Airbnb. Like, I'm going to give you a rating before you see mine. Like, it's very subjective. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
But totally, we could do that. It's one extra data point, which would be interesting to see the quality of those meetings change over time. You know, maybe that's not even a reflection of us. We're not involved in the meeting itself. We're just facilitating it, right? But
we're providing connection and gathering the result.
Yeah.
And then we can come up with strategies later to help people improve that result if they need to. Or we're pointing the event organizer to say, hey, Mitch and Gav had a good meeting. I might follow up them in a couple of months and go, hey, Mitch, you met with Gav at the conference. What came of that?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You keep creating new tasks for me though, mate. I've noticed that with you.
Mate. Here's what it is. It's never ending, right?
No, that's right. We'll be doing this for a while, I think. So it's good. It's exciting. Anyway.
I think if we run our skin, that's a really good point there. Whereas I could come up with ideas left, right, and center. But then if you go, like we talked about this before, is making sure we get an ROI or an intention of how we would use that feature to facilitate an outcome or to align it to our mission, or who does that rating go to in the side of the community? Who does it benefit? And at the end, like, because I know event organizers, I did a lot of that in my head just without speaking to you, right? And I know event organizers, like we're meeting with Zoe today.
Yep.
I know that they would find that valuable because it points them to a direction of going, hey, right? And then it's proving a value of an ROI that we can, because we're going to do reporting at the end, it can go into that report. So, yeah. But it's a good skin to say, hey, who does that benefit? How will we generate an ROI, or how will we prove the value of that feature, which I think is really important here. Yeah.
I think we're onto something.
Yep.
Anyway, back to the technical side of things. So it has been really fun to build out more APIs. Like, to be honest with you, that's the sort of thing that I love, and I could explain what that is. So an API is it's a way to do... What's a good way to explain it? An API is like a way for another system, so in this case our mobile app, to speak to the back end of SixSides, where all the data is and all the push notifications are and all of that. It's a way for the app or for we might have a partner that we integrate with or whatever. It's a way for them to talk to our system in code, basically. As opposed to, are you looking at what it is? Application programming interface.
I was trying to do that.
Which won't help. It's like, it doesn't really explain it. So that's why I was like,
I know what the API does just from in general, right? So
yeah. So as opposed to a web page where you're clicking on buttons and you're doing stuff there and you're typing things in, it all happens just through code, basically. So building those out is like, I find it really fun. And it's something like I've considered even giving a talk on before, because it's like, this is where the real fun happens, because it's just like raw computers talking to each other and making stuff happen.
Riveting. Absolutely.
See,
riveting.
This is where you've got a bad attitude. We need to change that attitude. Anyway, so that's been really fun to work on and to build out new things like that. And then once that was in place, it became really quick and easy to add this to the mobile app, because it's like, everything that I need is already here. It's right here. Just got to use it. So that was really fun. So now, I guess...
So with that, so we've mainly been, you and I, speaking about the app of SixSides, but there's a whole back end. And so there's that back end. You take the data from the app, goes to the back end, and then we present that back eventually to a client-facing portal or something like that, right? So there's the data. Yeah, okay.
Yep, exactly. So there is already a website, but we haven't shared it with anyone. The dashboard, which is what event organizers and speakers and sponsors and maybe even attendees will actually be able to log into and see their data. And for event organizers, they'll be able to go change everything. That's talking to the same database as what the app is talking to via these APIs. Right?
Sure.
So it's just different ways to get access to that same data, and everything's all in sync.
Yeah, brilliant.
So yes, that's kind of how the different parts of the interfaces work. But where was I going with this? The design. You asked specifically about design, right? So as far as designing a feature, so was your question more about the visual design of how do I think about what should be on the page?
Visually inclined.
Yeah, sure.
Though we have been on this topic for about 20 minutes, just as an FYI.
It's a long...
I'm sure people are dropping off.
The people are along for the ride. No, that's all right. The real heads get it, I think. Anyway, so the way I kind of think about screens has largely been informed by looking at a bunch of websites over years, or different apps and things like that. And I try to... If you're a developer and you're trying to start thinking about design and how can I make my stuff not look like shit, and to be clear, I'm not saying I'm the best designer. I am far from it, right? And I accept that completely. But I know I'm a little further along the chain than someone who just doesn't give a shit about how their stuff looks at all. I'm not like that.
Yep.
So it's been informed by just look at websites, look at apps, and don't just gloss over, oh yeah, cool, there's a button there. Look at the button and think about okay, they made it this curved this much, or the text is bold and it's this, try and think through, just really look at how stuff's been built in front of you, because you'll be able to pick up on a lot of cues. Then the guys at Tailwind Labs, who they've made this amazing design framework called Tailwind CSS. I'm sure anyone that's developer-y has heard of it. It's now the kind of the de facto standard for how to build the design part of your website, Gav. Okay. They released this book probably 5+ years ago now called Refactoring UI, and it's exactly this. It is a really good book for taking a developer-minded person and trying to get them to pivot into being a bit more design-minded. So it talks through about add space between your buttons so that things aren't cramped together, and think about the boldness of the text and stuff. So that was a shift for me, going from I would like to be better at design, to now, okay, I understand it a bit more and I can start to use some of these things. So every now and again, I'll still refer back to that book to just kind of get some ideas on things. Otherwise, I'm looking at like Dribble, which is this like big design website, which like professional designers will upload their designs to try and find more work and things like that. And it just gets showcased. So I can link to that in the show notes as well. But that's really helpful because you can just search for, and I literally did that for this. I looked up like meeting bookings on Dribble and then found they've got like this mobile section or something like that. And then you can kind of see, okay, these are different meeting booking interfaces on phones. Turns out I didn't really like any of the ones that I found, so I haven't actually used those in any of the designs here, but it's good to kind of try and get your brain in the right spot for, this is roughly what it should have. These are all the different elements that need to be on the screen,
I'm sure it's good to see what you don't like, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's helpful. Yeah,
okay,
sure.
I'm looking at Dribble now. That's with a triple B for people who may be listening. So, yeah, okay.
So that's kind of it. There's no like rhyme or reason. I'm not really like sit down and put stuff in wireframes or even in Figma and stuff. I was speaking with another agency owner, and they're big on that. They sit down and do wireframes and put mock-ups together and stuff. And he was explaining like it's really helpful because it then gets you like 50% of the work is done just in the design phase. But often for the projects that we're working on or internally here, like we're trying to do everything as lean and mean as we can, still deliver a really great product, but like we're not spending a bunch of time. Like this meeting booking thing, we basically got it finished in under a week. And if we had have been doing full-on design iterations and things like that, or engaging with a designer to do this, it would have taken a month, So this is
that where the time frame comes from, is bringing other people in and stuff.
It can, and like I could have sat down in Figma and figured it out and taken, build up all this stuff and, hey, Gav, what do you think of this? And then maybe we show it to Zoe and But it's like I could just get in and just build this thing in code. I can actually write it, and then we can have a look at it and make changes there. And that, to me, feels a lot quicker. So for some projects, it's better, especially if there's like a big budget on a project, way better to do a full design with a designer, get them to mock everything up first and run through like, okay, this is what happens when a user presses this button and then it should do that. And you have all of that in your designs. It is way better, but it costs a lot more.
But I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary when you have thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who might be affected by it. You just can't go and change stuff willy-nilly if you get it wrong. So, I can see that. There comes a time. Because it's more of a risk reduction exercise opposed to a productive exercise.
Yeah, that is a part of it for sure. There's lots of benefits to sitting down and like putting together these like placeholder screens and stuff. There are lots, even more benefits than what we've talked about here. But I know that like I put together the app originally for Laracon Australia, right? I wasn't sitting there designing everything up in advance. Like my personal style is a lot more just, let's just get into it and kind of, I'm okay to, a little bit, still with respect of the client if it's a client project or thinking about the end user and making sure this thing doesn't suck, right? I still run a filter over the top of everything that we produce to make sure that it's solid, like it's a really good product. But I don't find that I personally need to sit down and design it out first before I even think about the code. Versus Chris, who works with me at Atlas, he's very much like, hand me a completed, like a fully scoped ticket, is the terminology that we use. That's more his thing. He wants to know everything up front. And I'm like, being the, originally like freelancer to then now agency owner, I'm thinking about the entire stack the whole time. You can't, like, you can throw anything at me at any point and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Okay. We just change that and we'll do this here. And then now that, and ultimately it's fine. So yes, it is a bit loosey-goosey.
Oh,
as long as I
yeah.
make it clear that like it still comes with quality. I'm just okay
that's right.
kind of working in the chaos, you know?
Yeah, okay. And I wonder that has to come with that will evolve eventually, right? Because sooner or later you will, all things going well and we're growing and we're adding others. You just can't give people free reign because they're not going to align with your mental vision or our vision, right? So we have to put checks and balances in place.
Yep.
But I also wonder if people they take funding and they prematurely jump to that because that's what they think they should do, and it slows things down and it just wastes money. So there must be a balance there.
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, if we ever go down that road, we're going to have to figure that out, right? But for now, I'm really enjoying just this is us. We're lean and mean. We're building quality. To be clear, we are building quality, but it's it's fun. It's really nice just being in a small team. It's you and me and Chris occasionally helping, and we smashed this thing out of the park in a week, you know? So I'm really pleased with how quickly we're able to iterate. And it's inspiring to make me want to do more of this. It's like, okay, we've got a laundry list of, 10 different things that we want to build, and seeing how quickly this one was able to come together, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of chomping at the bit here to do more.
Well,
so
you've got a feedback session today with someone on our advisory council, which we're loosely set up. So it'll be, hopefully that'll go positive today. Cool. So another question I have. Oh, are we finished with this topic, or as riveting as it is? Let's move on. But I will commit to learning Laravel, to something. Yeah.
You don't have to learn the code, but we could sit in together, and I think that would be a huge waste of your time. But we could sit in together and I could show you hey, this is how I'm building out something, and get your thoughts in as I'm building it on the screen.
So let me be clear. I'll learn how to spell Laravel.
All right. That's what you meant. Got
it. So another question is, because I'm coming up against this at the moment with me, is juggling priorities against, with my other business and event and SixSides. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the other name.
That's right.
How do you prioritize? Because I know my core business, I've got clients and do that stuff. But if we get a win on SixSides, I'm naturally drawn to doing the fun shit and the positive stories, and I'm I'm happy to. And I'm hang on, I've got to go back.
You've got to pay the bills.
I've got to pay the bills. Yeah. So how do you have that challenge as well?
It's tricky. The fact that it's taken me this long, we've now been working together on this 4 months, 4 months, somewhere around there. And aside that we totally haven't brought up is we finally registered the company this week. And we got the SixSides Proprietary Limited. So it's happened. We got it. We were real worried because there's some other SixSides consulting or whatever, some other things that have that prefix, and we were real worried that we weren't going to get it, but we got it. So that's a big win for us. We should celebrate that. We need to set up a bank account. I'm waiting on Gavin, who I believe is going to go today. But yes.
Okay. We're going today. We're going camping today with the family. I can't wait. Actually, after we finish this, I've got to do a couple more things for us, and then we're going camping, but we're stopping past the bank to get all that done today.
Very good. Well, I'm excited. We'll have a bank account. We'll be legit. I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, back to juggling. I will say, I felt bad about how long it has taken me to get started on building new functionality out. Because I have been involved in a lot of these calls, and I know you've been doing a ton of work on your side to kind of move us along, but I have been more focused on my other businesses. A lot of that is Atlas stuff, working for clients, but also I'm involved in some other things. We don't have to get into it. So that's taken a lot more of my time. But again, that has made me feel kind of shitty and I'm doing a disservice to you.
I don't think that at all. I don't know why you would think that, right? I think you've spent whatever the time last year building this, and then you've got priorities. I don't think there's any sense on building something until we get confirmation that a client will find it valuable at this point in time.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So absolutely
I appreciate
not.
that.
Like, I don't think, it's
But it is now time for me to focus more on this so that we can continue to grow the product and win some more business, right? So, so it's funny because now I'm like really excited about it. I'm feeling those same of how you just described just before of like, I really want to work on SixSides and like, set up more meetings and things like that. And for me, it's building more stuff. But yes, I don't think I'm at any risk at the moment of like not paying enough attention to my other businesses. I don't think that's the case at all. If we continue to get some wins on the board, I think that it might start to get to that point. But I think we're a little while off that. And then, we'll have to figure out what does the future hold, as we continue to scale, which is, an exciting proposition to talk about. But we're not there yet. So I'm enjoying the amount of time that I'm now putting into this in terms of development and like even the meetings, every meeting that I'm having that, you're largely making happen. It's fun. It's still really fun, for me to sit in on.
It has to be. I think it has to be in the early days. If it's not fun, why would you do it? Like people say it's stressful and blah, blah, blah. But but it's got to be fun. First, for me, I'm wired to have fun. If it's not fun, I will lose interest. So,
it was, I meant what I said about that, the meeting that we had the other day. You looked like you were having a ball and it was just making me, I was like really enjoying that meeting, just kind of fly on the wall. And I spoke like a little bit through the call, I intro myself and I talk a little bit about the backstory and all of that. And then for some of the kind of technical parts, I'm happy to jump in and answer any questions or things like that. But just kind of seeing you in your element, like that's really enjoyable,
I think part of that, I've thought about that a bit. And in the early days, we are early days, it's getting your story, like people, if anyone here is thinking about founder-led sales or anything like that, right? It's as soon as you go in and they sniff that you're trying to sell, they will just withdraw and won't talk to you anymore. And because no one likes to be sold to, it's a fundamental first principle that I live by. Particularly now we've transitioned to more online sales since COVID, right? Yeah. If they get a sense that you're trying to sell, just go and have a look at lead gen emails that you get. People just push too quick and you're like, it leaves a bad taste. And it's contradictory with trying to build community and build connection. If you try to sell, that's an inverse of that. It can be perceived. So getting our story right that relates to value and relates to mission has been something that I've been trying to work on every single time. And I'll go away and go, did that resonate? Did that, like, what about Mitch's story? It goes really well. What can we how can I leverage that? How can I position you to be the subject matter expert of the platform? And I think it really resonated for the first time with me with those people earlier in the week. And but one, I could have just got lucky and swung at the fence and just got lucky, right? It's not about the one is a good indicator. It needs to happen every single time. So I feel like we're getting close. Yeah,
we'll get there for sure.
And
it's fascinating to me. This is like the inverse, where you're like, I went away and I thought about this, and I'm constantly thinking about how can I change the. That's like riveting, Gav. That's so so cool to hear. But I'm actually interested. Meanwhile, you think I'm boring as fuck. So not fair.
No, I don't think you're boring. I think the programming languages are boring, but anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I've been thinking about that too. Like, it's a real risk for either of us is to just put blind faith in the other one without actually having oversight, because you hear it all the time, I think, where people put too much faith in someone and all of a sudden they get swindled out of something. And I don't think we're ever going to get swindled, but we also just going, putting blind faith in a sales process or development and end up going, hey mate, I've made a bad mistake, I shouldn't have done this. Like, at least have it being involved in that. Because I've been thinking about AI and how that might play a role in this business, not in necessarily development, but how we would interact with a client or a customer, or might interact with theirs. And I'm also thinking about it with like my other business, Sales Market Fit. And I'm like, I know nothing about that. How do I know that who I'm speaking to knows what they're talking about? I was heading down a path, and I'm still going down a path with this company. And I was on blind faith. And I was like, hang on a sec, I haven't seen anything that they've done. I almost said yes to something.
Yeah.
And I was like, hang on, I better slow down a bit and just have a look of what they've done. And I've since brought in someone that I know that is really passionate about AI and knows a lot more. And I've asked him, does he want to help me just get my head around it and sit in on a scoping session and discovery sessions just to get another set of ears, so I'm actually not being led down a path, because I'm suspecting with any new technology or any new buzzword, there are people who are honest. I would like to think the majority are honest, but there's people who might fall within the grey area there. But yeah, it's getting across each other, I think, is really, at least to a degree, right?
Well, I feel like we are incredibly open and honest with each other. Like, you and I have had some harder conversations, and it's been great. Like, every time I come away from it, and I'm not just like talking you up for the sake of it, but yeah, you do.
Are you going to cry?
No, I'm not going to cry.
Come on, do it. It'll be good.
I would love to be able to, like, wouldn't that be just amazing? What a superpower to, like, actors have, that they could just like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to cry now. You could totally use that to manipulate other people. Anyway, yes, I'm very pleased with how open you and our communication is. Like, we continue to work on. I called you a boomer this week, I think. That's right. Was that this week? Yeah, because. And you're not. I don't think you're in it. I don't know what the boomer age range is. You're not a boomer, but you were like, every now and then you just write like, okay, to like, if I'm, sending through something and,
mate, hey, they're 61 to 79 years old. I'm not a boomer.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, and I thought, so I called that out. I was like, dude, this is mad boomer, what you're doing every time you write okay. And then since then, you've said okay a lot more. So I've done it to myself here.
I'm also in other meetings, and then I don't want to leave you hanging. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to pay attention.
I'd rather be left hanging than hit with an okay. Especially like, the 2-letter version, okay. It's maybe a little better if it's like OKAY. There's levels to this stuff, and I think about this sort of thing all the time. But
this is riveting.
You don't give a shit about this. So
no,
that's
no, it's good. Look, I think honestly, in my experience, where there's founders who there's tension or something, things go unresolved, right? I don't. Yeah. And I've learned that in just my personal relationship, like before my wife, like, if you're not honest, and I've learned to be honest as hard as it can be. And if the other person can't handle that, then I just don't think that's the right relationship, and yes, we've had some interesting conversations but they're needed, right? Like understanding why each of us think the way we do, and there's why we're behaving the way we are, so we can interpret it and change how we are doing things, and so we're not adding to it, or not getting affected by it, I think is really important. So, anyway.
We're on the right track. It's really cool.
Next week coming up, mate. So we could end it there, but what are you working on the rest of the app, the functionality next week? You've got a client call today, hopefully, potential client call today. Yes. Fingers crossed that will be enough for them to go, yep, we're in.
Fingers crossed. Yep. You've asked me to give to close the deal, which I take on the task at hand. I can do this. I've got you.
How are you going to
Let me do the sales, Gav.
Mate,
anyway,
give me access to the code base.
Yeah, I would love to see that. You would not have a damn clue. Anyway, yes, I do have this demo call to go through this meeting booking functionality. I'm hoping that we'll get firstly some really great feedback, and just see, is this on the right track as far as this person is thinking. And if it happens to also lead to a, yep, we've got you, then amazing. That's today, and I'm going to finish off, because the meeting booking isn't finished. Like I mentioned, still need to like set up notifications and be able to respond to meetings and stuff, but it's like 90% there. The hard work is done.
Yep.
So I'm going to finish that off today / Monday probably, and then ideally next week I would love to be working more on chat, so facilitating messaging between different attendees inside of the app as well. We know that not every event will want to use that. Specifically like Laracon Australia last year, we didn't have any sort of chat. We still don't at this point, but we didn't have anything like this, and the Laravel community across all the different conferences just seems to prefer using Telegram, which is a messaging app, and that works really well. So if people are happy to just use other groups, then great, they can use that, but we'd like to have this in place for any events where they're not using some other system like that.
Sure.
So, so that's kind of coming up. I don't know if that will be complete next week because, we're continuing to just evolve and scope out different things, and other things get in the way as well. Like this week worked particularly well, to be able to get in and like build out this feature from scratch and effectively finish it, but there's no guarantee that next week will be that same opportunity, right?
Sure.
Other things might get in the way. So but that's the rough goal for me, is to try and get chat in place next week.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for me, we don't have any sales meetings or whatever coming up next week. I was just having a look at the week after we do. So
that's our first week in this year, I think.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay. We've got 3 in 2 days next week.
Right.
But so next week, there's a couple of things I want to do on my side, which is around mapping the market out, and I might do a little bit of that next week. And then, because I haven't done any lead gen, everything's first degree networks and stuff. So we might start just putting the feelers out there, and then coming up with just doing some outreach. We've got a bit of a customer ideal buying persona at the moment across a couple of the businesses that we're talking to. So seeing if I can replicate that, and then we will we could even use I'm setting up a lead gen agency a little bit at the moment. We can maybe divert a bit of his time to that. So we'll see, but we'll start.
Okay.
I've been hesitant to do that because, one, we don't have the capability and we're still trying to figure stuff out. But we just might do a little bit of it. And then we also, one big thing we need to do is we need to plan a time to catch up in person for a couple of days over a weekend or something. We still need to lock that in. But
we want to do a founders retreat.
A founders retreat. Down to Canada.
Maybe.
To the
RSL club.
The cafe.
The cafe. That's right.
Mate,
we'll see.
Loving the conversation as always, and I'm enjoying this journey. We are making progress. I look forward to being able to talk to people about when we actually sign our first client. We're trying to get our shareholders agreement and our terms and conditions and all that ready, our bank account set up, with the anticipation that a couple of these clients are going to say yes in a few weeks. We want to invoice them straight away, right? So
absolutely. Get things going. Me too. I'm loving it. It's really exciting. And I just every week I'm like, man, I made the right call with getting you to join me on this, because there's so much stuff that I wouldn't be doing.
Whatever. I don't know how to do that.
Like this.
So again, like if anyone, we have a website, we have an email address, right? If anyone wants to have any questions or if they have any comments, is it journey@sixsides.co?
It is, and it's in the show notes as well. We would love if you'd leave us a review. We're up to, how many countries did we say? Was it 12 countries now?
12.
It's very exciting. So 12 different countries have had people listen to us so far. So hopefully we'll continue to grow that. Leave us a review, rating. There'll be links to everything we talked about in here. You can find us both on LinkedIn, if that's your jam. You can find me on Blue Sky. mate, I think that's it. Why don't we call it there? And
Yep.
we'll catch everybody next week.
All right. See you, mate.
Cool. See ya.